Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone podcast. My name is Kathy. In a rather unusual move, the court has put together 3 separate motions in limine, all dealing with one investigative genetic genealogy, the IGG evidence. There's one ruling directed toward all 3, and then there's a requirement that the parties are going to be working together on 2 separate projects as quite the period, the ending to one of the most hotly contested issues in this entire case. I'm speaking specifically of Judge Stephen Hippler's April 18th order on the various motions in limine that were rendered verbally that the court is now memorializing to writing. Page number 4, this deals with defendant's motion in limine number 10 regarding improper expert testimony, Middleman. Defendant's motion in limine number 11 regarding exclude IGG evidence, and also the state's motion in limine regarding investigative genetic genealogy. The court says here both parties move to exclude evidence of law enforcement's investigative genetic genealogy, IGG in parentheses, testing in this case, but for entirely different reasons. Given the parties' agreement to not present any IGG evidence, those reasons need not be discussed. Given the bottom line agreement, and the court grants the motions, the state has indicated it will present evidence through Detective Brent, this is misspelled, it's Brett Payne, Detective Brent Payne, that defendant's name was revealed to law enforcement through a tip. To avoid issues at trial, the court advises the parties to arrive at a mutually agreeable narrative about how the tip came about. There's a footnote 3 here which says, if agreement cannot be reached, the parties are to submit to the court their proposed narratives prior to trial, and the court will decide how it will be presented. This portion of the order ends by saying the parties are also directed to jointly craft a jury instruction advising the jurors to not concern themselves with the source or the nature of the tip. So what an ending, ladies and gentlemen. We see Judge Hippler ordering the parties to, number 1, work together on a narrative to explain to the jury about how law enforcement arrived at Mr. Kohberger as a possible suspect, that Detective Brett Payne will testify that the defendant's name was revealed to law enforcement through a tip, and then they're to work on jury instructions where the jury is to be directed not to concern themselves with anything further. Don't worry about, don't wonder, don't concern yourself about the source of the tip. If you look at our podcast and our YouTube channel and do a search of both, you will come up with countless episodes covering countless filings and hearings regarding this IGG evidence, which then turned into a hotly contested motion to compel. There was a hearing in Latah County, resulting in Judge John Judge's very long October 2023 order directing what would be discoverable and not. But before the defense would receive this discovery, there had to be an in-camera inspection where the court, that's Judge John Judge, for his eyes only, would look at this IGG evidence. The court ultimately found that the defense was entitled to some, not all. There were protective orders that came out of it, where the distant family members, they were deemed to be informants, as was the company involved in this testing. There was a motion to suppress related to IGG. That was one of the matters that was argued at hearing. It was ultimately denied. And to see things now come full circle, this is quite the period at the end of the sentence, it appears to me, in my opinion, regarding the matter of IGG in Idaho versus Kohberger. This will now conclude this episode of the Indie Zone podcast. Thanks for joining us here today.